good versus evil within each of us. Emmett Michael Walsh was no exception. Mike, the son of Emmett Edna, was the second of 5 kids, and for whatever reason, Mike and Emmett couldn't find common ground. It was a burden Mike carried his whole life. So for a few minutes, I'll try to give you a glimpse into Mike's life through my eyes. 1960, 8th and Broadway, not far from here. Mike pulls up to a red light in 49 Plymouth. Cigarette between his fingers. Now, one problem with this picture is he was 15 years old and he owned the car. In the next lane, Mom pulls up. She's staring straight ahead. Mike looks to his right. I think he pooped just a little bit. The light turned green. Mom went straight ahead. Now, Mom raised 5 kids. She didn't miss much. So, was that moment grace from God or grace from Edna? You decide. My brother had a huge heart. He loved deeply, he loved quietly, mostly silently. His love is easy to see, as many of us know, by just looking at his eyes, looking at his face. And Shelley, as he loved you like no other. And Don, he loved you like a son. Val and Nick, you were the absolute joys of his life. Winter 1960, and Pastor made reference to it. My dad came home from the railroad. It was snowing outside. And he said, "Hey, Mike, I'll give you a ride to school. It's car's all warmed up." Mike says, "No, that's okay, I'll walk." Well, Emmett was born at night, but he wasn't born last night. So Mike goes down the street, and my dad waits and follows. And around the corner is Paul Lara, and Mike's sweeping the snow off his car. My dad says, "Whose car is this?" Mike says, "Mine." My dad says, "Not anymore." To his amazement, Mike got to witness the marriage of both his grandkids, Valerie to Eric and Nick to Sarah. Mike was always skeptical he would live that long, as he was just didn't think he'd make it. And if any of you were at those events, you just saw him beam. Now, it's funny how my brother would move the goalposts, because as I back up in time, he would say, "If I could just make it till Val graduates from high school." Then it was Nick. "If I could just make it." Well, then they went to college. "I could just make Val's college. I could just make Nick's 21st birthday and his graduation." But, those were great goals for my brother, and he attained all of those. If you would go out and Google shotgunning a beer, there's a grainy 8mm film will show up with a young fellow popping a beer and doing his thing. That's my brother. He invented shotgunning a beer. And he died at 66, undefeated. My brother's prayers were answered, and his big old heart almost burst with joy, pride, and love as he held his great-granddaughter, Carmen, for the first time. What a blessing that was. And that was a moment in time. Beer is food. My brother didn't coin that phrase, but he could have, and he should have. But I think it was Winston Churchill or Greg Gunderson or somebody. Mike was a very generous and giving man. If you needed something and Mike was in a position to help, he would do anything he could for you. And an instance of that is when Lynn and I were first married, a classmate of mine and a classmate of hers were married, Nathan and Deb, and they were killed by a drunk driver. They had 2 small children. And Mike, among others, but he very much took the mantle of a fundraiser, and I was talking to my buddy Tim Gilmore, and he remembers going to the bank with Johnny Walsh and Mike opening a trust through the Syracuse. And that's just an example. About 5 years ago, my brother switched from Bud Light to Miller Lite. A move that precipitated Bud having to sell their whole American operation to a Belgian conglomerate to starve off bankers. If you'd only known. Mike was a blessed man. He had a relationship with the Lord. He had a family that loved him. And he told me in the last week that he was ready to leave this world with no regrets and no fear. Those of us who got to spend that last day with him witnessed as much. The last moment that I got to share with Mike at the hospital 2 weeks ago, he was mostly sleeping, and late in the afternoon he rose up and went up to his bedside, and he said, "Hey bro, I'm here." All the people in the room gathered around the bed, and you could tell he wasn't focused, and laid his head back down, and I leaned over him and I said, "Hey bro, the Huskers are going to be good this year." And then to everyone around the table, because Mike and I have had many of these conversations, I said, "So I'll speak for Mike. Yeah, well, you said that last year, and they sucked." And I said, "Look, bro, I've got inside information. I read the World Herald." And Mike, he got this little snicker on his, you could just see him, he was hearing every word, and his lips moved, and I said, I'll finish this for you, bro. I know exactly what you're trying to say. Yeah, we're going to suck this year." So, I thank God for Mike's good and righteous death, which it was, and it's what he wanted at the end. And for us that was there, it seemed to be a fitting conclusion for him. And so I just conclude with, bro, I can't begin to tell you how much I'm going to miss you. The Bears!